It's just before dawn on a bitter winter morning in the year 1250. You're 19 years old, a student in Paris, stepping out of a cramped rented room in a drafty lodging house. Frost hangs in the air as you breathe. Your last meal was yesterday, and ahead of you are hours of lectures held before sunrise in total darkness, with no notes allowed, on dense Aristotelian philosophy, spoken entirely in Latin. This is everyday life at a medieval university, and no, it bears little resemblance to modern campus life. Today we're uncovering what students and teachers actually endured at Europe's earliest universities. Fair warning, this story dismantles any idealized vision of medieval scholarship. We're talking about hunger, grinding poverty, constant violence, ethnic factionalism, and graduation rituals so expensive they ruined families. Let's begin with a typical day. If waking up early for class feels painful now, medieval students had it far worse. Academic life ran from sunrise to sunset. The first lecture of the day, the ordinary, began around 5 or 6 in the morning and lasted 2 full hours. In Paris, these sessions were intentionally held without candles. No light, no writing materials. Professors recited from memory. Students were expected to absorb and retain everything purely by listening, before eating in the cold, informal medieval Latin. At Oxford and Cambridge, students weren't fed until late morning. That meant 4 hours of intense lectures on an empty stomach. After a brief break to eat, teaching resumed from noon until evening. 8 or 9 hours of instruction per day, 6 days a week, was normal. The curriculum centered on the 7 liberal arts: grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. All instruction was in Latin. Teaching followed the scholastic method. Masters read authoritative texts aloud, students reflected on them, and formal debates called disputations were held where arguments were made both for and against a given thesis. Books were rare and extremely costly. Most students owned only a handful, if any at all. Education depended almost entirely on hearing and memory. Forget what you heard, and you failed. Once lectures ended, things often turned dangerous. Medieval university towns were notorious for unrest. Students occupied a special legal category. They were treated as clerics. That meant exemption from local courts, taxes, and civic authority. They answered only to the university. As you can imagine, this did little to endear them to local residents. Drunken brawls, vandalism, and assaults were common. Jacques de Vitry, a student in Paris around 1200, described vicious rivalries between student nations, groups organized by geographic origin. Insults were traded freely and often escalated into violence, and clashes weren't limited to students alone. One of the most infamous incidents occurred in Oxford in 1355. A dispute in a tavern spiraled into 2 days of open warfare between townspeople and scholars. Armed citizens attacked the academic quarter. Many students were killed or permanently injured. The university emerged so powerful that for centuries afterward, city officials were required to attend annual memorial services and formally reaffirm university privileges, a practice that lasted into the 19th century. Cambridge itself was founded as a result of bloodshed. In 1209, scholars fled Oxford after townspeople executed innocent students during a riot. These weren't isolated events. Violence was built into the structure of medieval university life. Then there was the problem every student knows well: money. Medieval students were perpetually broke. Letters survive in large numbers, many filled with pleas to parents. One father complained that every message from his son was simply another request for funds. A student writing from Oxford around 1220 explained that without food and drink, learning itself withered, while subtly showing off his Latin education. Their complaints were justified. In 15th century Bologna, annual study and living costs equaled the full income of a skilled tradesman. A full degree could cost many times what a laborer earned in a year. Some students begged door to door, worked as servants, copied manuscripts, sang in churches, or relied on charity just to survive. Living arrangements varied. Early students rented rooms throughout town with little supervision. Later, colleges and bursaries emerged, imposing strict routines. Wealthy students paid substantial fees. The poorest paid little or nothing. Some lived in almshouses specifically for impoverished scholars. Graduation, if one reached it, presented another obstacle. There were no written exams for the bachelor's degree. Students simply swore they had attended the required lectures. But advancing to the rank of master required public teaching and debate, and an enormous ceremony known as inception. Inception was not symbolic. It was extravagant. New masters were expected to host massive banquets with elaborate decorations, musicians, dancers, and mountains of food, wild game, exotic meats, and endless wine. The cost could equal decades of a laborer's wages. Many students completed all academic requirements, yet left without degrees because they couldn't afford the celebration. Contemporary observers were skeptical. Jacques de Vitry criticized students for chasing curiosity, fame, or money, and condemned professors for rivalry and pride. Complaints about academic politics, it turns out, are nothing new. And yet, despite all this hardship, medieval universities transformed Europe. They created the first international scholarly network where students and teachers traveled freely across borders. They developed rigorous methods of argument and debate. They established degrees, academic freedom, structured curricula, and the idea of the university as an independent institution. The hunger, the darkness, the violence, and the poverty were real. Many students never graduated, but these institutions offered something revolutionary, a shared intellectual tradition that outlived kingdoms and reshaped Western education forever. If you found this exploration of medieval university life worthwhile, consider liking and subscribing for more deep historical analysis. And let me know, what part of everyday medieval life should we explore next?